So Rolex decides to increase its prices of its watches going into the 2022 year. Is this a smart decision in an environment where scarcity is now the running theme? Prices are being increased by 2 to 5x depending on different types of models. Well, let's talk about it today in the news. So if you haven't been living under a rock, I'm sure you've become aware of the latest release of the increase in prices across the Rolex collection for 2022. What's interesting is the fact that Rolex decided to do this even in an environment where prices are going for 3 to 5x on the gray market. Is this a way to kind of show that it still makes sense to move away from the pre-owned market and continue to build that relationship with the ADs to get that watch at retail? Or is it more of a lack of sensitivity to the environment? And at the end of the day, this is about business. If I can increase the price because I think the demand is there, I will. Let's jump right in. Hey, I'm your host, Kurt Brown, and this is The Watch Factor. Now, what shocked me about this was just the overall timing to choose to do such a thing. We've seen people, especially myself and other collectors that are very much appreciative of Rolex and some of the things that they came out with. We found ourselves on wait lists that exceed 2 to 3 years. I know personally, I'm currently on a wait list with 3 different ADs within Michigan in hopes that one day I will get that glorious phone call that says, hey, your Sky Dweller or your GMT on Jubilee is available and are you ready? But the challenge is I'm not in a position today where I can spend an additional $30,000 or $40,000 on pieces that don't connect with me, jewelry that I'm not interested in buying, just so that I can get that phone call. So I'm kind of in a dream state, but I'm still hoping with my fingers crossed. But why would Rolex do this? Some speculate that at the end of the day, Rolex is not really moved by the behavior that's taken place in the watch industry on the pre-owned side. They're not the quote unquote reason or cause for such a behavior. And so they've been distancing themselves as a direct cause or the root cause for such a hike. Now, we have seen over time, usually every couple of years or so, Rolex does decide to go ahead and increase its prices. Now, I found a really cool breakdown of the list in USD numbers from a blog to watch, one of the watch forums that's been around for well over 2 decades. And I'm not going to go down each individual watch, but I am going to kind of highlight some of the more sought after pieces and give you an idea of the difference in price from 2021 to 2022 and what that reflects in terms of a percentage increase. Some models receive a markup of 3 to 4%, while more of the sought after items are seeing an increase up to 10% and maybe exceeding that just a little bit further. So let's start with the Cosmograph Daytona reference 116500LN. Now that watch in 2021 was going for $13,150. And in 2022, that watch has went up or increased by 10.6%. So now in order to get the watch at retail, you're looking at somewhere around $14,550. The Rolex GMT Master 2, the Batman and or Pepsi, originally in 2021 was going for around $9,500. It saw one of the highest increases, around 11.1%, and that number is now at $10,550. The Submariner No Date reference 124060 was coming in around $8,100 in 2021. That saw an increase of 10.5%. And now is at a retail price of $8,950. I'll do 2 more and then we'll wrap up here. The Submariner Date reference 126610LN in black, $9,150. Now has an increase of 10.4% at $10,100. And then just for kicks and giggles, the Date Just 41 all steel Jubilee bracelet reference 126300 coming in at $7,900. Now saw a markup of about 3.2% and now retails for $8,150. So you can see a wide range in terms of percentage increases that have been applied to the 2022 prices for some of our sought after Rolex models. Now, at first glance, I'll admit the prices don't really do much for us. I mean, we're already in a place where we're going to spend somewhere between, $7,000 to almost $20,000, depending on which model you're interested in. So to move up another $1,000, I mean, does it put you out of the ballpark where you're going to consider another line? Probably not. At the end of the day, you're just going to eat that additional markup. But what is it really for? Is it that they're going to go ahead and try to increase production? Nothing in the internet, nothing on the Rolex website kind of indicates that direction. There's also not a lot of backlash about it. Most collectors, most enthusiasts are going, hey, it is what it is. I'll pay it. The real reason or the real issue is, can I actually get the watch? Now, at the end of last year, or kind of in the third to fourth quarter of last year, Rolex did release an official statement in response to the hype and the increase in prices on the gray market. And they did call out that this was not a strategy on their part, in no way. That at the end of the day, excellence requires time, and that they are not willing to compromise the excellence or the quality of their products just to meet the demand that has increased beyond kind of what they thought. One thing that I actually like about Rolex's statement is that it's a clear distinction that they're not moved by what's going on in the gray market. At the end of the day, they believe in the craftsmanship that they have. And when they decide that it makes sense to increase prices, they will. If you so choose to go after a watch that they've produced, that they feel the retail is at $10,000 or at $14,000, and you're willing to pay a markup of, let's say, $15,000 or even $30,000, then that's your business. But at the end of the day, Rolex is definitely keeping an arm's length away from that perspective. Now, as I was doing a little bit of research in preparation for this video, I began to wonder, if you can't meet the demand of today's customer base, does that shift what you choose to produce? Does it make more sense to produce more Rolex Datejust, more ladies Datejust? Or do you focus more on the Cosmograph Daytona or the Rolex GMT or the Submariner? It'll be interesting to see, because right now, none of us have any insights into exactly what the AD is going to get. And based on conversations that I've had with a couple different ADs, they're not in the know, at least in terms of what they'll disclose to me, on what they're anticipating to perceive. It's just a very big dark hole that you just wake up one day and find out, oh, I'm going to receive 2 Datejust, I'm going to receive 1 GMT, and I'm going to receive 1 Daytona. And then the game begins on who's had the best relationship with you that gets the opportunity to actually acquire these pieces at retail. I've also heard some people talk about the beauty of patience. And although I'm one of the folks that is eagerly anticipating one day getting that phone call, there's also the harsh reality that it may not happen. And so then you begin to look at the pre-owned market and try to come up with a justification of actually paying something that's extremely above the retail price of these items. Rolex, even in a market where they could have said, hey, let's go an additional 30%, 50% above what we've charged in the past, chose not to. We quickly saw that the numbers were anywhere between 3.4 and maybe 11%. So if Rolex perceives that its watches are at this value, and the gray-owned market, which is now based off of scarcity, a little bit of hype, has decided to increase it above this value, are we kidding ourselves? Or are we just not accepting the reality that watches are an investment play, an investment strategy, and you need to jump on the bandwagon? Only time will tell, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop me a comment when you get a chance. Well, that concludes this edition of In the News. I'm your host, Kurt Brown, and I appreciate you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.